28 performer. That was when he was 10th here last year. He'll be looking to penetrate well into the top 10 here this year in his 8th half marathon. Kefali then.
Yeah, there is Kefali. As we said, so much potential from her. That 65.20, third in Copenhagen. First outing, also has run 29.55 for 10K.
Rono, that is also a man who'll be looking to go a lot quicker today than his best Gideon Kipkeritch. Rono making his debut.
There is young Melknet Wudu. As we mentioned, that silver, a couple of silvers actually at the World Junior Championships, and a bronze over 3,000. And Annette Chalangat.
Chalangat, one of the Ugandans. Field there is Camar. All smiles as ever. Super consistent. He just doesn't have bad races. This fella. Mekonnen. Yeah, he is also very consistent. Second here back in 2018. Mekonnen, very experienced racer. Great on all surfaces, just like Camar was 4th in the world cross country in Kampala back in 2017. Ironically, behind a certain Jeffrey Camar. So they are just about ready to go. I've got 6:14 on my clock. The Jerry's due to get underway at 6:15. The athletes queued up behind that narrow start arch. Brought forward there at the technical meeting yesterday. They were given very, very clear, strict instructions as to the start procedures. Here we go. Well, away they go. It's an electronic gun. It's always rather, to me, a little bit of anticlimax, those electronic guns. I like a really good, deafening bang, but it was a little sort of foot, and away they went. So let's hope that the pacemakers do a good job here today. I say pacemakers, there is only one pacemaker, and that is Edwin Kipsaisak, who's a 61.51 half marathon runner. He said he thinks he can get to the 10K point at 58-minute tempo, which is 58-minute tempo, by the way, is about 2:45 per kilometre. So they need to get a 5K, 13:45. There's no let up really when you're shifting at that speed.
No, there isn't, and I think that's why they had a pacemaker, just the one in there at the front of this men's race, just to get the ball rolling and get them into a race situation, and then I think the men will continue on their own. The women, of course, benefit from going off just behind the men, so they will have them to draw on them, and a number of men in the group. The second group, you can see they've already fragmented off into an elite men's race and the elite women, with some of the other men in that group helping them along.
Camar tucked right in there behind the pacemaker. He was very keen to get this one right. A couple of months and a bit more before his London Marathon, which is what, 26th of April this year, isn't it? Right at the end of April. In the old days, the elite marathon runners used to run a half marathon, about 4 or 5 weeks before their marathon. And then coaches and agents realised that that was too close to the marathon. It meant an interruption in their training, left less time, insufficient time for an adjustment. And now it's always 8 to 10 weeks before the marathon they run a half.
And they can sometimes even add the extra one in as well later on. But certainly at this point in the training, I think it's pretty much perfect in terms of getting a real indication of where you are in your training. I know chatting to Jeffrey yesterday, he's very excited to come out and just see where he is and then go back and see what he needs to add to that training, probably in strength-wise. The speed will kind of take a little bit of a hit as the mileage goes up in that marathon training, so it's good to get out now and have a good indication and feel good from the racing as well.
Well, here's that women's field without a pacemaker. It doesn't look to me like they're really hammering along here. That is almost jogging pace, isn't it? And I do wonder whether or not it would have been wiser to have a pacemaker allocated to the women. The hope was that there'd be several sort of good club, not club, but national standard runners who would run with the women, but it doesn't look like it from that.
It doesn't. It can be deceptive, but I think the women were keen not to get sucked into going too fast by hanging on to the back of that male pack, but certainly it looks like there's a little bit of reticence there. Nobody really wants to go to the front and push on with the pace at this stage. Maybe they'll get to the first kilometre, see the split. They shouldn't be too far away from that now. That is already outside of 3 minutes on the clock, so they'll be looking ahead. Normally at the pace they should be running at. You can see one of the men at the back there, Matej Husa of Slovakia, is just settled in. That is Daisy Jepkemoi as well, just struggling to go with that elite group at the moment.
Well, I said 58-minute pace for the lead men is 2:45 per kilometre. They've gone through the first kilometre in 2:47, so almost exactly on schedule. That's okay. We can assume with a running start, they'll get into the right tempo through the second kilometre. Generally speaking, the pacemakers do a wonderful job at these massive international half marathons. But do you think that running in the dark creates a slight dissociation with your environment, and therefore sometimes it's a bit harder to get your pace right? Do you think you feed off stuff around you, the street furniture and the trees and everything?
Perhaps.
You know what I mean?
I used to find when I was young that training in the dark you'd actually run a little bit quicker. So I guess it can work either way, can't it? It's either way. The athletes are here ready to race and get a good performance out of themselves, and I think that's perhaps what we're seeing is a little bit more caged and racing on the women's side, whereas the men are keen to get out there and get after fast times. It helps when you have someone of the pedigree of Geoffrey Kamara at the front as well, because the others will react and respond to that, and if he's going with the pace, they're absolutely going to go with that as well.
Well, way back in the 80s, there was a great American runner called Mark Nenow, and Mark always used to train at night. He used to train at like 3 in the morning. He said it's lovely because it's quiet, it's cool, there's less wind at night. He said there's no traffic, there's less pollution, the air is cleaner, and he was pretty good. I think he set US records at 10,000 meters. I remember seeing him in a massive dust up with the one side Awita at Oslo back in the day. So yeah, maybe there is something to be said for training at night. Is Husa tucked in amongst the women, as you said, Matus Husa, Slovakian 35-year-old. Personal best of 68.07. He's moving along with them. I was rather hoping he might actually help them out a bit at the front of that women's pack, not at the back of it. Now that's a good indication, Paula, in this men's shot, because almost single file behind Kip Sisak, and that suggests he's stretching them out.
It does. He's doing the job that he's supposed to be there for, and as I mentioned, just right in his slipstream is Kamara, and then it's almost at the head of a pyramid, and the other men jostling for position. There's Sam Henda of Tanzania trying to make his way through to the front of the pack as well, and they are keen definitely to get moving. That was the first kilometre they went through in 2:47 and picked up through the second.
Yep, 2:43 the second kilometre, so you couldn't ask for a better. They made up the 2-second deficit, so they're on exactly averaging 2:45 per kilometre after 2K. It's looking very promising at the moment. Let's not count our chickens too early, but that pack is big. What is it, about 12 strong, tucked in behind Kip Sisak? There's a certain urgency to his pace at the moment, this pacemaker, this rabbit out in front, which I like because it keeps the others up on their toes, and they're going with it too. And I really like the way that Kamara is almost climbing inside his shirt right behind him there. He's so close behind him. I don't think there's any wind about it. I don't think he's having to slip behind Kip Sisak. No,
it's more psychological, isn't it? I think if you can run on the heels of someone, you almost have to put a little less mental effort into the performance. You can kind of relax and just allow yourself to have the rhythm set by some others in the early stage, and that can just help save a little bit for the closing stages when it is about everything that you've got left.
Well, I wonder how many of these athletes will be there at 10K. I hope Kip Sisak, the pacemaker, can last to that point, because that means he'll have done a great job and set it up for Kamara, who will then, with any others that might be with him, push out on that second circuit. And always when you're in a tough race, look at that, the official times, I think it was 2:44 per kilometre for those first 2Ks. We're not going to quibble over a second in one direction or the other, but I always used to think that in big training sessions and long runs, tough runs, and to an extent in races like this, once you've got through halfway, you feel like you're going downhill. The predicted race time, 57:34. The rack course record is 58:35 by Kiprop back in 2022, 4 years ago. So that is suggesting a course record by a minute.
They've certainly set out in search of that time. I had Kiplimo down at 57:56 in 2022.
Sorry,
but still,
right.
it is inside of that projection at the moment. Although I think we were looking at the splits for Kiplimo when he went out. He went out extremely hard, didn't he? And then slowed a little bit over the second half. So his splits would have been ahead as we see them past the 3 kilometre marker, and certainly starting to string out the evidence of the men starting to drop off the back of this is that pace is hot.
Yeah, 2:48 the third kilometre is coming through. These are unofficial splits we're getting from somebody on the lead vehicle. I'm sure we'll give you the official splits sooner. They still are on course record schedule. The fastest time in the world this year, by the way, is 59:01 by Hampton Samuel of Ethiopia. That was in Houston when he won on the 8th of January, just almost exactly a month ago. So those are nice splits, 2:44s. That's her third kilometre. A little bit slower, but that's okay. You have to admire athletes like Camar, or rather like Gebre Selassie and Paul Tergat, some of the other all-time greats of distance running, in their application, Paul, year after year after year. When you think that Camar has been world-class since he was 19 years old, he's now 33, so for 14 years and more, he's had that sort of monastic lifestyle, that absolute laser focus to train hard and get it right year in, year out.
Absolutely, learned so much from a training partner, Eliud Kipchoge. As we look at the women, they did go out fairly steady, 3:22 pace for the first 2 kilometres. That is just outside of 70 minutes predicted pace. You can see there, not yet through, or maybe just approaching the 3 kilometre marker, so certainly taking a little bit longer to get into their running on the women's side. It's falling down to Magdalena Shuri, and more of a marathon specialist. There is the 3 kilometre marker, so yeah, pretty much sticking to that 3:20 or so pace through there, and it is falling again, bunching up. Nobody on the women's side is keen to push on yet. Perhaps some of the younger athletes, the likes of Wu that we picked out earlier, happier to let the more experienced athletes set the pace. There is Kafale right in the middle, and she's not too keen to approach the 65-minute PB yet.
Well, that's a shame they've gone out so slowly, because if they were on 65-minute tempo, they'd be running 3:05 per kilometre, so 3:20 just don't cut it, and you cannot make up huge lumps like that later on in the race. They really are dawdling in that women's race, frankly. It's a race, of course, that's more important than the super fast times. As we see Tadesse here in this men's race, just beginning to struggle already, going with this quick pace, and it's not surprising because it is super fast. And they will be asking questions of these elite athletes from, well, after 3 or 4K. It's a tough one, isn't it? You know, what, 10 minutes, 12 minutes on the clock, and you're having to think, this is not my day. I'm going to have to peel off the back of this.
It is hard. You have to make that decision, of course. You have to know what your body is capable of on a given day. The men will have trained at this pace, so they will know if it's that little bit too fast, and they might not be able to maintain that pace through to the finish. So better than to just drop back a little bit, concentrate on running your own race, and if 1 or 2 others drop back as well, then that does form a chase group, which will help.
Well, we're getting an unofficial 4th kilometre for the men of 2:46, so 11:04 at 4K. We're hoping they'll go through 5K in about 13:45. That would be at 58-minute pace exactly. That predicted race time has slowed a little bit, as you can see. 59:01 is what we're getting. Obviously a long way under 60 minutes, but that will vary a fair old bit as each of those early kilometres is tweaked. That 4th kilometre at 2:55, wow, that's a huge reduction in tempo. I find that hard to believe. I mean, look at that. The opening kilometres 2:44s, and then at 2:55, really?
Yeah, it doesn't look like the pace has dropped, does it? Men are still continuing to drop off the back of that lead group. The cadence of those elite athletes looks as though it's pretty much the same at the front. So perhaps we'll wait. We've got conflicting splits, didn't we, from the lead vehicle feedback? So yeah, we'll get back to you on that 2:55.
Yeah, I'm getting a split of 2:46 for that 4th kilometre, and we've got a 2:55 going up on the screen. So predicted race time still down there at almost exactly 59 minutes. They're approaching 5k now. This will be a more telling point if there are timing mats at every 5k. Kip Saisak still doing a good job there, coming out in front. Masai back there, up in the top half dozen or so. Samuel Chebole, Masai has a great track speed, 13 minutes exactly for 5,000 metres, 27:07 last July at the Prefontaine meeting in the USA for 10,000 on the track. And he's Japan-based for much of the year. Good cross-country runner, was 8th in the world junior cross-country a few years back. Run 27:36 for 10,000 at the age of 19. Anything under 28 minutes is international class running. When you get down in the mid-27s, then it's world-class racing, and sub-27 is super quick. And of course, Camar has run under 13 minutes for 5,000, under 27 minutes for 10,000, and has it all, doesn't he? You look at what he brings to the table. His armory is just unbelievable. He offers everything.
It's that ability to translate performance across surfaces, isn't it? And we got a bronze in Aarhus in those really muddy conditions, and talked about how tough that course was. Then when you come to a flat course like this, it feels so much easier to run along at pace as they go through a water refreshments table there as well. Not too many men keen to take that. Some conditions are good out there at the moment. Just buried in that pack is Dilu, number 6.
13:50 at 5k, as you can see there. 13:50. I've got the 5th kilometre at a 2:45, so that is nice. That's good, healthy running. That's just 5 seconds outside 58-minute tempo at 5k. So I reckon that predicted time we've been given is a little bit pessimistic. I mean, they're on about 58:30 pace, something like that at the moment. Really good, healthy running, and that pack has whittled down. It was 12 strong. Look to me now like it's about 8, and you can see in the background there, extreme left of picture, 1 or 2 athletes just beginning to tail away like the tail of Halley's Comet almost.
Yeah, he's just turning the screw, and at the front, majestic is Camara, a little bit taller, the taller athletes out behind him. That is young Dillo that I was talking about. He is just 20 and was 4th in the junior race in Bathurst, Belgrade, in the World Cross Country just a couple of years ago. So huge potential. Did win in Cardiff, 59:23. So perhaps more to come from him as well. That's only the 1 half marathon so far, settled in behind Mekkonen with the long socks.
Mekkonen, we refer to him as Jamal Yima, but Mekkonen is on his number. That is his full name. Seconded back in 2018. He's twice been 4th at the World Half Marathon Championships. One of the unlucky fellows. 4th in Valencia back in 2018 when Camar was the winner. I remember that one because Camar ran the 5k between 15k and 20k in 13:01. It was insane running, and he was 4th in Riga 3 years back, and he missed 3rd place by 3 seconds. Actually, in the 2 occasions he's been 4th, he's missed the medals by 2 seconds and 3 seconds. Yima, so he comes into this one probably a little bit frustrated with his championship for years gone by. But interestingly, you see Camar to the left of the shot we just had as we gone back to the women. He looks so relaxed moving at this pace, doesn't he? There's just something about form. When others are looking a little frantic, he looks very calm.
Yeah, I think we mentioned before, didn't we, that really his sweet spot is perhaps this half marathon distance, and he comes in excited and ready to race. There are the win, just passing 5 kilometres in the background there, last kilometre, the 18 coming up on the clock there. So maintaining that pace, not yet wanting to get caught into a faster tempo, and certainly a lot more caginess on the women's side. You can see the main pack is still all very much grouped together. They are taking on water at this stage, perhaps indicating that they are not operating at maximum speed yet. They are taking their time to get into this race, and I think we are going to see much faster kilometre splits in the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, Shori, Chepkwony, Chalanga, Chamurgo, Chepkuru, all the big names right there, but 16:32. I mean, that is about a minute slower than we had hoped for in this women's race, and it does highlight the question whether or not a pacemaker out there, a male pacemaker, in what is after all a mixed race, wouldn't have been a wise move to drag them out a little bit more aggressively. Very, very different to the way the men's race is unfolding. 16:32 at 5K. I mean, they're on about, what, 69-minute pace?
For Magdalena Shore, who has run a 2:18 for third in Chicago last October, she's pretty much on marathon tempo here. And perhaps it is a good outing for her in terms of settling onto that marathon tempo, but certainly not going to threaten personal best. Her personal best sits at 66:37 and is a couple of minutes outside of that projected at the moment, at least.
Yeah, she ran that 66:37, but she was 7th here in rank back in 2020. It was a national record at the time. But that's her third place in Chicago last October, that 2:18. It was a national record for the Tanzanian. It was a massive personal best too. You know, it was almost strange. She ran 3 marathons back in 2017, 4 in 2024. And she was only 39th at the last Olympic Games, and yet she's now a 2:18 marathon runner. She's come on dramatically this last 18 months or so.
Absolutely, but struggling to get onto that pace now. Not struggling are the men who are maintaining a tempo. That is another 2:47, and that 2:55 has been corrected from earlier on that 4K split.
Yeah, 2:47. That's nice. They're within a second or two of steady pace for 58 minutes exactly. So they are really shifting other men as we see this lovely drone shot of Al Marjan Island. That's the finishing straight there, effectively to the right of all those cranes. The finish and start-finish area is the way in the distance beyond those cranes. We almost saw in the left there, to the left of that shot, the El Hajj Mountains in the background where Paul and I went up a couple of years ago and had a zip wire ride on the longest zip wire in the world. I think it was 2K across a valley, wasn't it?
It was phenomenal. Yeah, really great memories of that. You'd get a great view of the racing down here, wouldn't you?
I'm not sure I was looking at anything the race. I was too busy screaming as I hurtled across a valley about 500 feet in the air. Anyway, the women passed with the sky lightening up all the time. Depends on the angle, of course, whether you're facing the sunrise or looking into the distance. But here is that women's pack, understandably massive, about 15 strong, because it has been so slow their first 20 minutes, because that's how they've been running now. No clock on screen, but just over 20 minutes running done. And that first 5K, 16:32. Let's hope somebody gets the bull by the horns and gets some aggression into this.
The danger is you get lulled into a pace, don't you? And whereas we see the two contrasts on the screen there, the men strung out, the pace was set fast from the beginning, and they've gotten into that pace and settled into it. Camar now moving right up alongside the pacemaker, trying to chivvy the pace along a little bit, whereas the women got lulled into the slower pace at the beginning, and now nobody is really keen to go to the front and take it on. As we mentioned, there is no wind out there, and you can see on the men's side when they're slotting in, that is really just to benefit from getting onto the heels of the men in front and helping to switch off a little bit mentally and save some of that energy for the closing stages when they know it's going to get tougher and tougher at this pace.
But another 2:47 for the men through the 7th kilometre, unofficially. Samuel Masai, he is one of the surprise packages on my list, a 24-year-old. He has only run 61:52, but he's up there at the moment, moving at a tempo that is about 3 minutes quicker than that. Could be a breakthrough race, my notes say. He was only 10th at the Kenyan Olympic trials over 5,000 metres back in 2024. Maybe that's what's made him move to the rows, to the half marathon. But he has run very quick for track 10,000, 27:07, and actually very, very consistent for 10,000 the track. There he is, Masai, very consistent at 10,000 over the last 5 years. So he's I guess you could say, served his apprenticeship, running great 10,000s on the track again and again. And it's probably just about the right time at the age of 24 to move up to the half.
Yeah, as did Camar, didn't he? He started at the cross country and then moving up to that, and you can see the predicted race time at the bottom is kind of hovering around that 58, mid-58s.
Yeah, 58.33 is good. That's fine, because athletes like Camar, you tend to close fast, don't they? You know, he'll wind it up in the last quarter at least.
He will, but it's down to him now. I did just notice the pacemaker to have a little word to Mekkonen as he dropped back, and that is him now dropping at the back of that lead group. So 22, approaching 23 minutes of racing, and it is now down to racing on the men's side with the likes of Camar at the front, though. I tend to think the tempo is going to be maintained.
You know what I love about shots like this is when you get an idea of how fast they're moving, when you pick a spot on the barriers beyond them, behind them. Pick a spot on those and see how quick disappears out of shot. They are absolutely flying it. And I think there's been a significant injection of pace here from Camar. 23 minutes on the clock, and he has turned the screw here. And he's really making them work. And I don't know whether or not he will have said something to the pacemaker, or the pacemaker will have said to him, look, I'm sorry, I'm shot, you're going to have to go. But he has grabbed it by the horns, so to speak, and is in control of this one. He's leading them a merry dance at the moment. Mekkonen, Jamal Yima Mekkonen in second place with the long socks, those long greenish socks, is matching him stride for stride at the moment. He is a fabulous track 10,000 meter runner. Mekkonen, he can pretty much match Camar when it comes to personal bests on the track. He's run a very fast 10 miles. He's super consistent. He's run 27.10 for 10k on the road, and he's good on all surfaces. And I wonder whether or not we will come down to the big two eventually, although that men's group is whittling down. It's only about 6 or 7 strong now.
Yeah, it's come down to the men who turned up here in shape and ready to race, and finally we're starting to see a little bit of stretching out in this women's pack, although it is still down to Magdalena Shauri of Tanzania to set out this pace. And so far the big two, as we call them with their times in the 65 minutes, are not showing at the front. I can see young Magnet Wudu just hidden in the purple, the smaller figure, following the more experienced athletes ahead of her. But at the moment the pace is dawdling, should we say.
It's funny, isn't it? Because the currency of international racing now at the elite level is times, is fast times. And these athletes know that full well. Now, there's big prize money up for grabs this weekend, and maybe that's in their minds as well. But all these women know full well that, you know, the world is watching. ኻይማህ has developed a reputation for brilliant racing, really quick times. And they're not fulfilling that part of the bargain, so to speak, at the moment. It's within their right, so to speak. They're perfectly entitled to run how they feel, but nobody has really attacked this today and gone out from the gun with the attitude of, I want a quick time. These are brilliant conditions. It's a quick course. This is a huge opportunity. They've all, as you said, been lulled into that sort of rather slow, almost sleepy pace for these opening kilometres. And they've been out there now, what, for 25.5 minutes. And it's 4 or 5 across the front. Nobody really prepared to commit.
No, there is Chip Korea at the front. She does have a 65.46 to her name. Perhaps now, as she's moved to the front, that is why we see for the first time that predicted race time slip below the 70 minutes, but it's still not fast, and that is why there are so many women in this group. Conditions, we said, they are good out there, so struggling to understand. They do have the bikes ahead of them as well, so did they want to stretch out? Yes, there are no pacemakers in there, but you can use the lead bikes as a little bit of a pull and also get settled into the paces that you're used to training at.
Is that what you used to do, try and catch the lead bike?
Used to concentrate on, yeah, different, or use them as a little bit of a marker to kind of set your pace from.
And then eventually somebody told you that the bike will keep speeding up and stay ahead of you. Like a carrot being dangled in front of a donkey. Anyway.
You call me a donkey?
No, perish the thought. That's a big women's pack though, isn't it? I mean, if you had a big blanket, let's call it a magic carpet, you could throw it over that pack of women. Camar, by the way, really has turned the screw here, because the previous 3 kilometres before the 9th kilometre were all about 2:47. He's just run a 2:44, so he has wound it up. I know to many of you listening, it might not sound very much of an acceleration, 3 or 4 seconds over 1 kilometre, but it is quite a big acceleration. They will have noted that as they go through there. They're touching some timing mats there. That's not the 10k point, is it? They went through 5k in what, 13:50? last kilometre 2:44. But Camar has whittled it down now to a pack of what, about 4 or 5. And Jamal Yima-Mekkonen in the dark long socks has been the one man who has dogged his heels right from the gun all the way. But interesting, isn't it? The Bailu is there as well. Paula, Berhan Bailu of Bahrain now, former Ethiopian.
Yeah, he does have that fast time to his name also for a half marathon distance, doesn't he? But really has that track pedigree, and that is Ratsim of Tanzania, who's just struggling to go. He has taken the decision to drop back, or had the decision forced on him for that lead pack, and from that overhead shot you can see and get a real impression of the damage that Jeff Camar is doing by pushing on at the front of that lead group. They kind of spread out across the road trying to maintain contact with that lead group, because if you drop off it becomes suddenly that much harder. It's easier to hold on to the coattails of the pace at this stage rather than be on your own dropping down the road as Ratsim is.
27:42 at 10k, so they're on about 58:30 tempo. They, if it had been 27:30, that would have been 58-minute pace. 27:42, well, you can do the maths yourself. It's pretty straightforward. They're on almost exactly 50:30 tempo. 2:45 that last kilometre. And Dilu is suffering here. You can see the tall figure of Dilu. He's the Yismo Dilu Meniberu. He's a 59:23 performer. He was the winner of Cardiff back in October last year. Fabulous 10,000 speed on the track. He's a 27:08 performer on the track. He's only done one half marathon, so what can he do here today? I said in my notes, I say surely he can go quicker than he ran in Cardiff, but it's hard to live with Camar when he's in this sort of form as they negotiate the turn here near the start finish, very narrow commentary position, about 200 metres up the road from where we sit. There we are, you can see right in the centre. They negotiate that U-turn and head out on their second lap. So that 10k time, 27:42, another 2:46 there. And Kibor has been dropped. Brian Kibor, and he's at 58:39 for me now. He did that in Valencia, was third in Valencia back in October, just gone. He won the Santa Pola Marathon the 18th of January by over 2 minutes. I rather expected him to be up there in that lead pack, but he's having a bad day at the office, is Brian Kibor, the 24-year-old Kenyan. He had a fantastic 2025 too. He set personal bests at 10,000 on the track, 10k on the road, and at the half marathon. Here are others, big names there. Liche, he's struggling to go with this form as well. He's a 60.5 performer. He was third in Cardiff back in that October race in the south of Wales in the UK. So it is very much the usual form in effect from Camar, leading this small pack now at halfway as Kiprotich comes through to negotiate that turn, but a long way down now, goodness me.
Yeah, it just shows the caliber and the effect of what Jeffrey Camar is doing. And I think, look at that, the really impressive, the white socks kind of highlight, and shoes highlight the cadence and the turnover at the front of this men's race, and it's impressive. And for the first time, is Camar being challenged from the lead?
I think he might be. I can't see who it is from this shot, although that doesn't give you, that gives you a good idea, doesn't it, the speed they're moving at. Daylight now too, which somehow feels a little bit more comforting from the darkness, but Camar has done a lot of damage these last 3 kilometers or so. They've gone through 11k with a 2:44, and that incorporated that U-turn, so they are motoring now. We might see negative blitz here today, having reached 10k in 27:42. I wonder whether or not Camar is heading for something rather special, and it's Rono who's challenging him, and this is a bit of a surprise, Paula. If that's Gideon Kipkurtic Rono, wearing number 21, he's making his debut. I've got for him only a 13:41, 5,000 meters from a couple of years back, but he's really shifting.
He's not afraid, is he, to come alongside Camar and challenge him either. Just to say, okay, you thought you were going fast, but I can get right up alongside you and tell you that I'm still feeling okay at this pace. Only as a 13:16, 5,000 meters to his name, but he was 8th in that world country in Belgrade a couple of years ago.
Well, they're the elite athletes crossing from one island to another. It consists of 4 islands, this Al Marjan complex, which is a lot of cranes, a lot of development going on, but it's all about fabulous rate of development. A long-term strategic plan is very much the objective for this, for the local authority. Ras Al Khaimah Tourism Development Authority have got the bit between their teeth, and they are one of the great sponsors of this race and have huge ambitions. There's a monstrous casino under construction alongside this this main road around Al Marjan Island. We've seen that women's elite field, Paul, at 32.45 at 10k. It's on the slow side. We were hoping it might be, well, a minute and a half or so quicker than that.
It is picking up now. They're gradually picking it up and winding it up each kilometre. So we are now down from those early 3:20 split down to 3:13, but you can see the gesturing from the women. They're just trying to get somebody else to come to the front and do a little bit of the work. Still, Magdalena Showery is the one, the marathon runner, they're leaving it to her to set that pace, and the others happy to settle in. And I'm looking for the likes of Kafali, who was hidden in amongst that pack. I can't actually even see her in that shot. I can see young Melknet Wudu on the far side, the smaller stature of her, just eyes focused on the heels of the woman in front, and not yet much happening. Slight increase in pace, as we said, but not enough to do any damage to that pack, and you could still throw that carpet over the top of them. 3:13
there for that kilometre for the women, and we were hoping they'd be down there around 3:05, 3:10 per kilometre, and they've never been anywhere near that throughout the entire race. It is a very, very different race unfolding for the women as they come towards the U-turn, the turnaround point at 10k. This U-turn they're going to negotiate now is about 10.1 kilometres, so that means they've gone through 10k in about 34 minutes, something like that. It's much slower than was predicted and was hoped for, has to be said. There you can see the splits, although they have wound it up a little bit. The second 5k, you can see top left of the screen there. The
10k split did come up at 32.45, so they have picked it up. And actually, for some of the young athletes in there, the likes of Wudu, whose personal best is just under 69 minutes, they are approaching that time now, perhaps with a little bit more running and bounce left in their legs to now know the course as well. The advantage of a 2-lap course being that you can get a little bit of experience of it. There aren't too many climbs. In fact, the only real changes in this course are as you go over those small bridges that link the islands here on Al Marjan, and they aren't big at all. So it is a fast course, and they've had the opportunity to study that. So let's hope they're going to be some faster racing now over this second lap.
Well, it will be negative splits, and we know that there's some fireworks coming in this women's race here. I did them a disservice there, saying 34 minutes at 10k. As you said, Paula, quite correctly, 32.45 at 10k. I wonder what the second 10k will be. We'll find out when they get to 20k. But the men's race, well, they continue to knock out splits of 2.44 per kilometre through 11k and 12k. They're winding it up really nicely. I do think we might see negative splits in the men's race. Well, remember, they got to 10k in 27.43, which is very, very quick racing. I don't think course record at 57.56 is necessarily guaranteed any safety at the moment. The world best is under real threat. Hampton Samuels 59.01 from Houston. Indeed, the women's world best was also set in Houston by Belaine, Fantaye Belaine. She ran 64.49. I don't think that's going to get threatened today.
That is a lone run in for Annette.
Yeah, strange, isn't it, that she's been dropped already there, Annette Chalanga. Yeah. She's a 68-minute performer. She should have been able to stay with this tempo. But of course, these it's so easy to forget that these are not metronomes. They're not machines, these athletes. They have good days and bad days, and one or two of them are going to have a bad day and comfortable run. We don't know the reasons for that. And I suppose that's what's all the more admirable about the really consistent distance races, isn't it? They very rarely, if ever, have a bad day. They are sort of metronomic in their ability to turn up and race well and get it right again and again.
Sula also struggling to go with that lead group, just checking her watch.
Yeah, she wears number 20, a better. But very difficult, Paula, when you're, A, you know you're having a bad day, and B, you're isolated earlier in the race. Mid-race, you've got 8-10 kilometers to go, and you're just struggling along on your own. The temptation to drop out is enormous, and yet, of course, that contradicts the spirit of being a tough distance runner.
It does, and you have to focus, as she is lucky she can see now some women starting to drop off that lead group, so this pace is definitely picking up there. It's starting to string out, and she will have those targets ahead of her to focus on, and can of course look over the other side of the road and see perhaps the elite men coming back down as well on that side, but that group is starting to whittle down.
Well, it's quite something, isn't it? It comes down to Shorty, the marathon runner amongst this group, to take on the role of pushing the pace along. The men to the left of picture with Camar still asking the question still. What, 5 in that lead pack? The burden on him to drop the others, and they're slipstreaming him in effect now. You can see Jamal Yimamekkonen tucked right in his long green socks behind Camar. Look, you can't see him. He's so tight behind Camar. Maybe getting a little bit of benefit there. He's a tiny figure too, is Mekkonen. 1.63 m, that's 5'4". He's a tiny figure, but a fierce racer. And he will hang on to the coattails of Camar here. Ratsim, well, he's been dropped as he passes through 14 kilometers. I'm just looking at Ratsim's car. Tanzanian, just 19, making his debut. He was 29th in the World Cross Country in Tallahassee back on the 10th of January, a month or so ago. He won't be 20 until November. I've got very inexperienced beside his name. Last year, a couple of 10Ks in South Africa, but 29th in the World Cross Country and way back from this lead pack as Dinky leads that little pack. Ethiopian, who was 11th in the Dubai Marathon last year in 2:11. He's a 62-minute athlete. Wallerlane not having a good day either. I was expecting maybe a little bit more from him, Paula. He's a 58:40 performer.
I think it is. It's the metronomic pace that Camar is setting at the front, and it's really, really starting to hurt these men. You can see Masai struggling to go with it now. Rono is actually slipping back a little bit, and he's so consistent. I mean, within a couple of seconds, all of these splits have been per kilometre, and eyes focused on the road ahead of him. He's not looking for any pace other than its guidance of that lead bike. A little bit of a look over his shoulder just to see the effect that this maintaining of the tempo is having on the rest of the field, because of course it will be hurting Camar as well, but he's so good at hiding that and just focusing on one foot in front of the other, just maintaining that pace.
But you know full well that when you go to the front of a race, you led plenty of races, goodness me, you're the only person that can judge the way you eke out your energies and you spread it out over that final third or the final quarter of the race to get it right. And very rarely when you're an experienced racer like Camar is, or like you were for much of your career, do you misjudge it and actually hit a wall and end up almost jogging home. I mean, can you ever remember getting that judgment that wrong?
No, only kind of in the early stages when you're trying to learn how to do that, and your aim is to get it wrong in training more often than you do in racing. So by learning what it feels like to get it wrong in training, you try and avoid that in the races. And what Camar is trying to do is just basically ride that line of the maximum pace that he can maintain without not being able to maintain it, without going over that line and having to slow down, having your body dictate that. So there is a 2:46, and they've all been 2:44, 2:46. He's so consistent, so good at doing that, and you can see the effect it's having on the men behind.
Well, they've gone through 15K unofficially in 41:25. Now, if they were on 58-minute pace exactly, it would be 41:15. So they're 10 seconds outside 58-minute pace at 15k. And Camar has the strength and the speed endurance to wind it up now with this last 6k. So this is special. Camar possibly heading for sub 58 minutes today, surely heading for a massive world best for 2026. Hampton Samuel's 59.01 is living on borrowed time, I think, from that Houston Marathon, some 4 weeks ago. Here's that women's pack, which is beginning to whittle down now a bit, but it's still Shori carrying the burden.
It is. She has been helped by Jessica Chelangat of Kenya, who does have a 66.13 to her name. So for her, this is pedestrian enough at the moment, but it looks like it's hard work out there. Settled in behind is the race favourite Kafale, who's really kept her powder dry all the way through so far, and alongside the youngster Melknet Wudu, who is just 21. Kibede also finding this pace tough to go with. So many of these women finding the pace harder than we would have imagined.
Well, it's funny though, isn't it? Because actually there is the sort of the factor of when you get lulled into a slow pace during a race, and then there's an acceleration in there. Even though you should be able to handle the overall average pace, the acceleration can find out a lot of athletes. They'd have preferred a more steady pace right from the start.
Yeah, you want to get into that rhythm early on, don't you? As they did on the men's side. There is Balu trying to stick, and the gap is opening.
It is indeed. Camar has made the break. Has he put in a kick here, or are the others just settling? I think that's happened so quickly. We were with them about 2 minutes ago. In the space of 90 seconds or so, Camar is away. He's got about a 5 or 7 metre gap, and I think that Camar must have accelerated there. Maybe at the 15k point, he saw that time 41.25 and has kicked away, hoping to get under 58 minutes here. I don't know how good his internal maths are, whether he's got times written on his forearm or if they're just sort of embedded, sort of stitched into his brain. Probably the latter, but Camar seems to have really turned the screw there. Maybe getting a little annoyed with the fact that they were feeding off him, you know. I mean, and so we saw Jamal Yima Mekkonen tucked in right behind him. I don't know whether he was clipping Camar's heels, but he was so tight to him. Maybe Camar was just getting a little bit frustrated by that.
Perhaps. I mean, I think also when you're trying to break the others in the race, you're really listening for signs of weakness. You can't turn around and look at them, of course, as we see the mass race get underway there, and they are chasing these elite men down the field. But for Camar himself, I think maybe he sensed a little bit of weakness from those other men and has kept that foot to the gas and just pushed on, and now that will be a welcome feeling for him to know that he's moving away.
Well, last year there were 10,300 entries on the day for the different distances here in Ras Al Khaimah in the 18th edition. This 19th edition, we understand, numbers gone well beyond that. Over 10,500 entries today for the different races, and that is massive. Many, hundreds and hundreds of those athletes, thousands of them, in fact, are expats who drive up here from Dubai. We're about an hour's drive from Dubai across the desert. You have to watch out in the last few miles in the desert just there on the horizon for the old camel sitting out in front of your car. I've seen it myself a couple of times over the years, but yeah, the expats, many of them will have come up from very early on this morning. It's still only 7 a.m. local time for this race, for this fast race. It's built a reputation of giving the opportunity to set personal bests.
It's great to see the running culture growing here in Ras Al Khaimah. Every year these fields are sold out, and more people coming back and training for these races and seeing themselves progress through the distances up to that half marathon distance. See how they measure against the likes of this man, and that elastic is starting to stretch to breaking point, and it back to the chasing Balu in the distance behind.
Yeah, I reckon that elastic has snapped. Little glance over his shoulder there from Camar, looking to see what sort of damage it's done. But isn't it interesting? He looked so relaxed for the first half hour or so, Paula, but now with what, 46, nearly 47 minutes on the clock, he's really striding out with purpose. Powerful in the legs. There he goes through 17k, 46.55, let's say. at 17k. And 58.01 pace for Camar, or rather his personal best, 58.01. And maybe that's what he's chasing, actually. We haven't mentioned that, have we? If he gets under 58, personal best.
Yeah, I mean, he will have looked, and it's not too far from the course record, from that personal best to that course record, and perhaps that is indeed what he's going for. He has the added strength, and it took him a while to get to grips with the marathon, didn't it? He didn't have immediate success, but then going in, victories in New York, that means you're strong. If you can win the marathon in New York, you have that strength. We know he has the strength from the cross country as well, and he's performed time and time again those titles over the half marathon distance at the World Championships. And now he's back here 13 years after he first came to RAC, after he last came to RAC and raced and won here, and it looks like he's on the way to victory again.
Well, it does indeed, yeah. The Ratsim here is the Tanzanian 19-year-old having a tough old time. He's quite a way down. A glance over his shoulder behind him, and that's never a positive thing. You always, if somebody looks over their shoulder when they've been dropped and they're back behind a lead pack or a lead group, it shows that they're more worried about what's going on behind them than chasing those up the road in front. The women, meanwhile, still with Shorty at the front and Chalanga beside her, coming through 15k. We're down to what, 5 or 6?
Yeah, it's certainly picked up, and as you were saying, I think a huge amount of this was down to the fact that they were lulled into that steady pace from the beginning, and then to wind up later, it's harder unless you've trained to be able to do this. There are 6 women in there, and the youngster, less experienced Wudu, taking on water. Just in a little bit, it's still down to Shuri and Chalangat at the front, pushing on this pace. All the work is being done by these lead 2 women, and the others quite happy to settle in. I think we've lost Kafale from that group. We certainly have.
Well, they've wound it up quite nicely this last 5k or so. 48.26 at 15k. Looks to me like they could be heading here. That last kilometre, 3:03. Now they're racing. Now they're beginning to run hard in this women's race. I expect we're going to get something down in the mid-67s, something like that, which is very much world-class race, of course. But I still feel as though there's an opportunity been missed with that slow first 10k. Remember, 32.45 at 10k, and we're hoping it would be somewhere down around 31 and a half minutes. Chalangat, 7th in Valencia a couple of years back with her personal best of 66 minutes, 66.13. She was 3rd here in RAC last year in the ኻይማህ half marathon with 66.53. She's a great 10k racer. She's run 30.01 for 10k on the road. Was in Valencia 3 years back, as we see the sun rising still in the disc behind Jeffrey Camar to left of screen. And he's got that glorious isolation now. What's that gap behind him? About 50 meters?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great shot, isn't it? With Sun climbing behind in the background as the king of the half marathon distance starts to pull away, and the others forlornly giving chase.
And I'll tell you what, that 17th kilometre from Camar, fastest of the race so far at 2:42. His 17th kilometre, his 18th kilometre, that's the one that did the damage. His 18th kilometre at 2:46, so still holding the feet to the fire of the other athletes, so to speak. He's making it very, very hard for them to get back to him. He's not letting up. At no point is he giving them a sniff of consolation or a chance to come back to him. When you build a gap like that with an acceleration and then keep your foot on the throttle, make it very, very hard, nobody can come back to you.
And it's a good feeling, isn't it, when you break away, and he knew that he'd done that. I'm sure that was why we saw that 17th kilometre pick up a little bit. It's just a psychological boost of knowing you've put in the work for a long time, and finally it comes to fruition and you break that string that was attaching the others, tailing off the back of you, to your heels, and he is able to run freely and approaching 19 kilometres. That will be a good feeling as well, and he will pour everything that he's got left into the final 2 and a bit kilometres of this race now.
Well, he's sharpened for this really well, as Jeffrey Camar. His most recent race was back on the 31st of December. So what, some 6 weeks or so now. He won the Madrid 10k. It's a slightly downhill course. He ran 27.42. I ran it myself years and years ago, and it's an insane race. Back then, I don't know if it's still chaotic now, but back then you ran through a tunnel of people at 6 feet wide. It was insane, and there were fireworks being thrown in amongst your feet and all that sort of thing, being a New Year's race. Have you run it?
I've run the 10K in Madrid. So
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. The New Year's race.
Yeah. That one is a great one.
I think it's one of the best post-race celebrations I've ever had. I do remember little bits of it. It involved a restaurant and dancing and tablecloths being thrown all over the place. And
silly string being fired in your face.
And liquid refreshment aplenty. Here he is, though, the fabulous form of Geoffrey Camar. A 2:47 his last kilometre. He's maintaining that tempo. I remember 2:45 pace is 58 minutes exactly, and he's on schedule here for something around 58:10, we're being told. I would love to see him get a new personal best and go below 58 minutes. Here are the chasers behind Camar.
And it is still Balu chasing hard. He certainly might well be within shot of personal best. His stands at 59.41 from Valencia back in 2024, and he's not that far behind Camar, whose predicted pace. In fact, he's not moving away anymore. Camar, I think Balu is being able to maintain that distance, and that will help him.
I think Balu's closing that gap maybe a little bit. Camar's last kilometre, his 19 kilometre, was at 2:49, we're being told, from the lead vehicle. So, if anything, he's tiring Camar. I thought he would continue to wind it up and close really quickly. He is hurting there, there's no doubt about it. I wonder if he's had a glance round, because Balu maybe catching Camar. Wouldn't that be a turn-up? The Bahrainian 29-year-old, as you said, Paul, he's going to run a massive personal best. He's going to run a personal best by over a minute here, I think. But Hanu Balu has got pedigree, and I've put in my notes, I've got an asterisk saying he could be a surprise. His personal best 5,000, it was 12:48. That was in June last year in the Paris Diamond League. 12:48, fabulously fast 5,000 on the track. He was second there, ironically, to the world record Olga Jelcha. And here is Balu now. He's got fabulous speed. He's run 7:31 indoors for 3,000. That's quicker. That's quicker than Camar. And he holds the Asia record, 26:54 for 10K on the roads. Yeah,
and that was running Herzog, but he has a pace, doesn't he? He has that 12:48, 5,000 meter pace on the track. Has been sixth in the Olympic Games, 5,000 in Tokyo. And look around, he's tiring as well, without a doubt, but he is being rewarded for holding on as long as he has done to Camar, who has to know that he's closing. It's a little anxious look there, isn't there, over the shoulder.
Well, look at those hits, the bottom two times there on that list, 2:47, 2:48, amongst the slowest of Camar's race. He is tiring, there's no doubt about that. And Balu back there is probably about 40 metres down. That gap is closing, and Balu has got the bit between his teeth now, and he can see Camar closest to the camera. Camar, he is suffering, he is tiring, and Balu in the background is closing with every stride. It's visible from this shot. He's going to run out of road as Camar there crosses, I think, the 20-kilometre mat. We'll get a split for that any second. Balu probably about 7 or 8 seconds down. There it is, the gap, 9 seconds, and he's got one kilometre in which to close that gap. Has Camar glanced around? Is he aware?
I think he has to be aware. There are the bikes alongside. I'm not sure if they're allowed to give that information. He has to be aware that camera foreshortens it, but from that overhead shot, we can see you can see the shoes. The turnover of Balu is quicker behind, and remember, he has chased home Camar on many occasions in that World Cross Country we talked about in our host, where Camar came away with the bronze. Balu was 5th in that race, so he's used to chasing Camar. And how much does Geoffrey Camar have left that he can pull out in this last kilometre? He hasn't slowed again.
Well, his last
20th kilometre, has he? That's come through at the same pace.
Yeah, 2:48. The official split there, I've been given 2:46 from the lead vehicle. It matters not. The fact is that Balu here is closing. Very different build to Camar, isn't he? He's barrel-chested. Short, stocky, punchy little man, really powerful stride. Camar is long and lean and also powerful, but is being closed down. 56.5 minutes on the clock. How close do they get to 58 minutes here today? Camar is definitely tiring, there's no doubt about that, although maybe the gap is staying at 35-40 metres, and Balu is going to run out of road, I suspect. Camar has put in such an aggressive surge with his final third or so of the race. He kind of deserves the, he's the one that's taken the initiative.
He has. He's done all of the work all the way through. The pacemaker stepped aside just before 23 minutes, and since then it has been all Jeff Camar at the front, and it will have been a welcome sight for him to see that 1 kilometre to go, and means that he can put everything that he's got left into this long straight. And as you talked about in the intro, it is a very deceptive long straight. He can see the finish line up ahead of him. He can't wait for it to get a little bit closer, because he has to be aware that Bar was starting to close him down, and now finally he can see that finish line up ahead.
Camar then coming towards the finish line. He can see it up ahead of him. Bailu closing, and look at the sprint here from Bailu. Checks his watch, goodness knows what for, because he is an eraser as Jeffrey Camar looks like he's going to record yet another marvellous victory over the half marathon distance. It is his sweet spot. It has been for many years. Twice the world champion across country, 3 times the world champion at the half marathon, and victor once again here at the age of 33 in this 19th edition of the Ras Al Khaimah half marathon. Camar is champion. Small takes the clock there at just outside 58 minutes, about 58:14 unofficially. Bailu comes home for a fabulous second place, a monstrous personal best for the former Ethiopian, now running in the colours of Bahrain. Prior to today, his personal best was 59:41. He's just locked off well over a minute from his personal best, and Rono comes home for 3rd place, and he's under 59 minutes as well. It's the quickest time in the world this year by Jeffrey Camar, by a massive margin. The first 3 indeed going under the quickest time of the year prior to today.
Yeah, lucky 13 it was for Camar. 13 years after victory here, comes back, and a majestic win today that tells him that his training is in the right place heading into that marathon later on.
And look at these times. Masai coming through there in 5th place, I think, at about 59:02. These are super quick times. Ratsim and D, there'll be personal bests galore here. Ratsim, well, it's his debut. He's just 19 years old, the Tanzanian. This is a fabulous run from him. Dinky, the Ethiopian, has a personal best of 62:48, and he's going to come home here in under 60 minutes. He's going to set a personal best by about 2.5 minutes, I think. This is great racing. One athlete after another pouring across the line here in under 60 minutes. There's no clock on screen, but I can tell it's 59:40 now. So Dinky grimacing as he comes towards the line. Is he going to get through in under 60 minutes? 59:50 now. He is. There it is. You can see the clock above that finish line. And they both come through just under 60 minutes. A special day here in Ras Al Khaimah as the 6-minute barrier is broken by what? The top 7, maybe 8, is that?
Maybe 8, yes. Certainly phenomenal racing, and as we say, hats off to Jeffrey Camar for the work that he did, because he has to be thanked for laying down that pace in the early stages, turning that screw, rewarded himself with victory, but many others behind him with big personal bests as well.
Akko coming home there, just inside 60 minutes 30. Mayo Akko is 60:28. I think he might have hit exactly his personal best, which was 10th in RAC last year, and he's about 10th today. Teshaga, Bailin Teshaga Yegso, he's just outside his personal best, and I think we have the winner now with Wendy Sly.
Big finishes across the line, give it all applause.
Jeffrey, congratulations. That was a great win for you today, and a personal best.
Thank you so much. I think I'm really happy to come back after 13 years and win again. The first time I won was in 2013, and 13 years later I come here to win and run a great time as well.
You ran a very consistent pace out there. It was 2:44, 2:44, and then suddenly 15 kilometers you pushed on. Were you feeling very good at that time?
I trusted the training I did, and after 15 kilometers I thought maybe I can push, because I really wanted to win. So that was the reason I tried to push so much.
And there were 5, 6 of you together. Were you helping each other out there?
I think no, because after the pacemaker, I did everything from 10K. Yeah.
And you looked very confident. I believe you're running London Marathon in a few weeks' time. How does it make you feel going into that race?
I feel great because I came here to test my speed and to catch my training. And it reflects very well that my training is really going well. And I am looking forward for a great marathon in April.
Well, congratulations on a great run, a personal best and a win here in Ras Al Khaimah.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant from Jeffrey Camar. Yes, clearly very, very happy with his day's work. Bailu in the background was closing him down, but it's all about getting to the finish line first. And Camar, well, he did do all the work, Paula, from through the second half of the race. I mean, the pacemaker didn't make it to 10K.
No, just not even to 25 minutes. And certainly I think Camara ran that race to win today. He sacrificed his personal best perhaps out there when he threw down that 2:42 just to fully break away from the others. Paid a little bit of a price, came under a little bit of a threat from Bailu closing, but was able to come away majestic with that victory. And as he said, that stands him in good stead now, sends him back into that training for the marathon on a high and knowing that things are going in the right direction.
Yeah, he didn't actually set a personal best today. It was close. His personal best 58.01 from 2019, but 58.13. We're not going to bicker about a few seconds here and there. Brilliant win from Camar from a very fast closing Jamal Yima Mekkonen. Back to this women's race, though, Paul, and that big pack that looked so comfortable for a long time, approaching 20K, whittled down to 3, and still Shorey.
It is still Shuri doing the work, and still tucked in behind is my pick, young 21-year-old Melknat Wudu, who has a 58.53 personal best, but she's handled the surges and the pickups, which are difficult to do, particularly when you're a young runner and you settle into a slower pace and then it winds up. It's difficult to hang on to that, but she's done a very, very good job. And the other woman in that group is Asmaresh also only 21. She has run some fast times, mainly Lille, done a lot of racing over those fast courses, 5K and 10K on the roads in Lille, and she's handled the surges here today, making her debut at the half marathon distance, and it's going to be a good debut.
It is indeed, yes. Although, you know, this has been such a strange race on the women's side. A really, really slow first half. They picked it up gradually through the second half, and it throws up some strange results because Anneli, I mean, frankly, she's one of the outsiders. We wouldn't have had her in our top 10 probably prior to the race, with all due respect.
No, but I think when you have a 30.23 10-kilometer to your name and 14.41 over 5K. It did also run recently in Nijmegen, 47.05. So she's in shape coming into it, and I think they've wisely left the pace setting to Shuri, and now for the first time we see a pair of them move either side, so Shuri can't pick up the pace anymore. 3:06 that last kilometre, so they now are operating at exceptionally fast half marathon splits. Shuri does now try to respond, because once they hit the front it wasn't quite as easy as it was sitting in behind.
No, exactly. And Shorey has done so much of the work, and here she goes. She's got that strange forward lean. She's got extraordinarily long levers, long legs, massively long femurs, the long thigh bone, and she's using that to good effect here as she tries to close over this last kilometre, last few hundred metres now. They're in the long home straight. They can see the finish in front of them, about 600 metres away. And Shorey here will make them work every metre of this last, less than half a mile.
And I think her experience is going to tell over this last kilometre. It is deceptive when you can see the finish arch up ahead, and this is now the second time we've seen Wudu and Anneli surge either side. And this time I think it is for real. This is now a battle that they are judging, and hopefully judging correctly into the finish, as we see in the back there. Jessica Chalangat trying to chase them down, and it's a long, long shot up the road ahead. A surging duo of Wudu and Anneli trying to move away. They have certainly broken Shuri.
Well, Wudu's only 21 years old. She's a fabulous talent. World Junior Championship silver medalist over 5,000 metres in 2021 and 2022. This is a battle of 5k runners. It's been a slow, tactical race, this women's race, and Annelly now pushes to the front of that recent 5k form that Paula mentioned, 14:41, world-class race over 5k on the roads. And here you can see Annelly easing away from the pack here to take this one. Shuri, the marathon runner in the background, did so much work through the second half, doesn't have the leg speed. That last kilometre at 3:06. It is going to be a surprise winner here, but a glorious win for this youngster. Annelly comes home. Annelly Yesenay takes the 19th edition of the Ras Al Khaimah half marathon. Her time well under 67:30. It ends up being a very, very solid, quick race here, despite the slow opening kilometres for women.
A tough way to race like that, and a phenomenal debut from young Asmaresh-Anley. She does have the all-time third fastest 5-kilometre time, but has now translated that to half marathon form as we see the other women coming in. And you're right, Tim, fast times given particularly how sedately they went out over the first 10 kilometres or so of this race. As the sun comes up, it is reflecting on fast times on both of the races today, particularly on the men's side from the beginning, and the women was all done in the latter half of the race.
Well, Chacha not really doing the cha-cha there. She's coming home a little way down the field. Alamea, who as well is a little way back. Some of the big names just haven't had their best day at the races today. But Asmarecha-Anley, the 21-year-old, well, African Junior Champion in 2023. Pretty limited international experience, it has to be said. But goodness me, did she show a clean pair of heels to the others behind her today. Her track personal was only 15:18, much quicker on the roads over 5k. As you said, Paul, really quick 10k in Lille back in 2024, as we see Chacha crossing the line there and just outside 69 minutes, maybe exactly on 69 minutes. But that's the longest race of Annelly's life, and she's come up trumps.
She has, and by racing it as well and benefiting from the experience of Magdalena Shuri, who ended up holding on for third position after much of the work she put in that race.
I still feel, I mean, the winning time on 68:30 there, we'll wait for confirmation of that, but I still feel as though there's a missed opportunity there this morning from those women who went out so slowly through the first 10k. They could have a minute quicker and more, I feel, if they had just spread their efforts more evenly. Well, we've got the women's winner down there with Wendy Sly. Here is Annelly with an interpreter.
Big congratulations on the win today. It was a very slow race to start with. Were you all just being careful at the beginning, or were you just holding back to see how you felt later on?
እንኳን ደስ አለሽ። በጣም በጥንቃቄ የተደረገ ውድድር ነበረ። የመጀመሪያዎቹን ርቀቶች ጠንቀቅ ብለሽ ለማድረግ ነበረ ስትዘጋጀ የነበረው። ወደ መጨረሻ ላይ ለመውጣት ምንድን ነበር ሀሳብሽ?
ማለ በጣም ወጋት ይዞ ነበር ከ10 ኪሎ ሜትር በኋላ። ያው ግን እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን አንደኛ በመጣቴ በጣም ደስ ብሎኛል።
So she's happy that she finished the first place. It was tough after the 10 kilometer, but she's really happy that she won the race.
And coming into the last few kilometers, there were 3 of you together. How did you feel with 2 or 3 kilometers to go when the pace was getting faster and faster?
ወደ መጨረሻው አካባቢ 3 አትሌቶች ሆናችሁ በጋራ ነበር ስሮጦ የነበረው። የመጨረሻዎቹን 2-3 ኪሎ ሜትሮች ማጠቃለያው ላይ ውድድሩ በጣም እየፈጠነ በሄደ ሰዓት ምን ነበር ሲሰማሽ የነበረው?
አሪፍ ነው ግን በጣም ንፋስ ነበረው። ወጦ ለመምራትም ትንሽ አስቸግራል። በጣም ንፋስ ነበረው። በቃ የራሴን ማራጭ መውሰድ አለብኝ ወደ መጨረሻው ወጣ።
So it was a really windy race, so it was so difficult to break out and to run on my own. So in the final kilometers I decided to run out and break out. So it was a very windy day.
And the time ended up being actually quite fast. What does that mean to you, and what's next?
የገባሽበት ሰዓት በጣም ፈጣን የሚባል ነው እና ምን ይነግርሻል ይሄ ስላንቺ ምን ታስቢያለሽ ወደፊት?
ወደፊት ደግሞ ከዚህ ተሻለ ለመሮጥ እሞክራለሁ ከእግዚአብሔር ጋር።
So in future, I am planning to do a bit more than this. And if God's willing, I am planning to do more and more.
Well, congratulations on a great win today.
እንኳን ደስ አለሽ ለዚህ ታላቅ ድል ስለበቃሽ።
ከእግዚአብሔር ጋር ደግሞ ከዚህ የበለጠ ሰርቼ ለመምጣት እሞክራለሁ። አመሰግናለሁ።
Thank you, and with God on my side, I will try to improve in the future.
Well, isn't that lovely? What a story. Two contrasting races today. Super fast men's race. What, 7, 8 men under 60 minutes, we think, with Jeffrey Camar, or the super experienced Jeffrey Camar, winning with a 58.13 unofficially. And in the women's race, a newbie, a new talent, just 21 years old, in her debut at the half marathon, taking the victory. This is the style of Asmarec'anley and Paula. Really exciting. Yet another Ethiopian off that production line.
Absolutely, and definitely more to come from her. She's certainly still learning racing at this half marathon distance. Benefited, as we said, from the hard work of Magdalena Shauri of Tanzania. Held on to third in the background behind her, and Magnet Wudu rewarded with a big personal best in second place as well. More to come, I think, both of these young women, just 21 years old.
Yes, Anley has got fabulous track speed. Just checking her card, she's run 3,008.42, and she used that world-class track speed to good effect there over the final 300 or 400 metres to show a clean pair of heels there to Wudu and Shauri. She's definitely got more in the tank, there's no doubt about that. I mean, what a way to announce your arrival on the international scene. What, about 67.25 we think her winning time? We're waiting for that to come through officially. Well, I think we can do that for you now. There it is, 67.21 indeed for Asmarec'anley. That is quite some way to announce your ride on the half marathon scene. Well, Magnudu 67.26, and look at that, despite the slow splits early on, the first 6 under 68 minutes here in Ras Al Khaimah, and it is indeed not quite the world best here, but that is super packing from the women.
It was a strong racing, with a lot of that done with phenomenally quick closing kilometres, certainly over the last 5 kilometres of that race.
And here is the winning form of the men's champion once again, 13 years after his first victory here in 2013. Jeffrey Camar comes back to win once again. He's like a fine wine, he's getting better with age. Holding his form, holding his smile as well through the final few metres here ahead of the challenge of Bailu, the former Ethiopian, who set a personal best in the background there for second place by a massive margin. That was his consolation, a personal best by over a minute. But Jeffrey Camar will get the official time. We think it was 58.13, his second Ras Al Khaimah win. And he goes from one peak to another, does the astonishing Kenyan 33-year-old. There it is, confirmation of the win for Jeffrey Camar, 58.13 it was, winning by what, 8 seconds from Berhanu Bailu, who just ran out of road. He was closing the Bahrainian. Gideon Rono, 58.36 for him in third place. That too is as fabulous form. That's a debut for Gideon Rono. That is one of the quickest debuts in history. Jamal Mekinen, 58.53. The first 5 men here in Ras Al Khaimah under 59 minutes. Brilliant running. The first 7 under 60 minutes. Paula, what can you say about that card? That's a rare one.
It is a lot of fast times and personal bests in that results list there, largely due to the hard work of Jeffrey Camar, who